Yeah, I listened to that one and heard some of the.
We got like 15 minutes in, and it just kind of stopped working. So I don't know. We'll see. All right. Well, it's rolling. So we'll give it a shot.
Did you hit record?
Not yet. Actually, I would have forgot. So thank you for saying that. I got it just. Okay. Here we go. Hi, and thanks for downloading this episode of the IVMB podcast, which was brought to you by all of the listeners who support us on Patreon. We were recording this on Monday evening. The Cubs had an off day today after taking 2 of 3 from the Diamondbacks at Wrigley this weekend, and their dramatic win on Sunday got them back to 500. Currently, at the time of this recording, they are 2.5 games behind the division-leading Pittsburgh Pirates. I didn't expect to say that this late into April, but it is what it is. So in the next hour or so, you're going to hear us talk about that series, talk about some individual performances, of course, and then preview the upcoming Dodgers series. I'm one of your co-hosts. My name is Corey, and I am joined by the other 2 hosts of this podcast. Kurt, why don't you get us started with the scary stat?
I'll do that. And this one comes from Jeremy Frank, who is at MLB Random Stats on Twitter. And he did a spreadsheet of all of the MLB markets that are blacked out from 3 or more teams and tweeted that out. And so if you live in Iowa, like I do, you're at the top of the list, and there are 6 teams that you're blacked out from. So that's 20% of the league. And there are 2,430 games played in every MLB season. And people in Iowa are blacked out from about 35% of those games. So that's about 851 games. And he kind of did this stat from the idea of the fair market value of MLB TV. And he calculated the fair price for MLB TV for Iowa residents was about $78, a little less than $78. So, yeah, I mean, we've talked about this before, and there's no, solution to this in the short term. But he tweeted it out, and any chance I get to keep harping on this, I will. And, as long as this continues to be an issue, expect to hear about it.
Yeah. There's so much wrong with, there's so much wrong with Major League Baseball in general, but especially the blackout policy. I mean, I don't remember if I shared it on the podcast, but there's a town, maybe it's San Juan Capistrano or something like that. So it's basically between Anaheim and Los Angeles. Between Anaheim and San Diego. And it's like maybe 35 miles, 40 miles from Anaheim. They are blacked out from the Padres, but not the Angels. And everyone in Hawaii is blocked out from every West Coast team. The closest, if you live in Hawaii, the furthest west team that you can watch, I believe, would be, I think it's the Diamondbacks or the Rockies.
Oh, yeah.
And if you're a Cubs fan living in Hawaii, man, life is good.
Yeah.
Right. But it's just it makes no sense, and I totally understand. Obviously we're not clueless as to the reasons why these blackouts exist, but you just look at it and it's like, oh, baseball is going to miss this great opportunity of like young people, and we've talked about this, but like my daughters, they watch YouTube, they watch Netflix. That's basically it. They would not know how to turn on a Cubs game. They don't know how. No. I mean, just flat out, they could not watch a Cubs game if I wasn't here to do it for them. And granted, we have like kind of a backwards way of doing it, but they wouldn't know how. And that's the future of, this is the future of like sports fans and consumers. And I feel like Major League Baseball is going to lose a generation because they have this archaic policy that they're tied into. That I feel like, I mean, there has to be a way out of this, right? I mean, some amount of money would buy them out of this situation.
Well, they would have to then buy out the deals that are currently in place with these providers. So, and that would be way more money than they're willing to put in. So at this point, the money outweighs the detriment.
It's just disappointing,
It is, and especially in the world where it's like the way it's supposed to work is like, I will pay you X amount of dollars to consume your product, and they're like, yeah, but no,
right?
Like, really?
Right. Or you can pay the same amount as someone. You're blacked out from 6 teams and someone else is blacked out for 1 team, and you pay the same amount. It doesn't, there's a lot of, I don't know.
Thankfully, we can just, we have our ways.
Yeah. Yep. That is true. Okay. So, as far as this Diamondback series I think that if we're recapping this Diamondback series, which, spoiler alert, that's what we're about to do. I think that, and really, I think if you're going to discuss all of the games since Jon Lester was injured, I think the conversation has to begin with pitching. So when Lester was injured, it felt like he was the only starting pitcher, or really pitcher at all, on the team who looked decent. And in the 10 games since Lester was injured, the Cubs team ERA is 1.90. They have 94 strikeouts to 25 walks. So before his injury, the team ERA was 6.90, 5 runs higher than it is right now. And at that point, they were giving up 2.2 home runs a game as a staff, and now it is just 0.8 home runs a game. So starting pitching has improved dramatically, and we're going to talk about those individual performances, with in this Diamondback series. But the bullpen has improved, and it's just impressive to see, just how the pitching staff has really stepped up, especially those starters. And
I think the answer is clear. I think they need to cut Jon Lester.
You mean bench him, right?
Yeah. Leave him in Iowa. Yeah, and Lester could be back soon, but you cannot complain at all about how the pitching has performed in his absence. When he was injured, it's like, oh my gosh, he was the only guy effective out there. And now, who knows what the next, couple of weeks were going to be like. And I talk about a pleasant surprise, and talk about something I didn't see coming at all. I did not expect to see the starters step up in a way that they did.
Well, yeah, they went from horrible to just plain dominant over a stretch, and that, it literally is a 180. It's certainly not what any of us expected during that sort of panic of the first 8 or 9 games, when it felt like this was going to be their downfall, and now it's like, okay. Even if it's somewhere in between these two polar opposites, it could be okay.
Right. Yeah.
I feel like Quintana and Hamels' backs have got to be pretty sore from carrying this team.
Yeah.
But I wanted to talk about Darvish. After his last start, it looked like he had perhaps turned the page somewhat. Even though he didn't make it through 6, possibly because of a too early hook by Madden, he only surrendered 2 earned runs. This time out, though, he gave up 2 homers in the first inning on a night that was pretty pitcher-friendly wind-wise. So it's kind of hard to pin down why he just can't pitch better. Just pitch better, man. What's your problem? Madden even seems a little lost on it. He said that he wanted to see you pitch with the emotion that he saw in his last start. So I wonder if that was the note that he gave him. Hey, just go out there with the emotion that I saw out there in your last start. And I don't know, he showed some fire in his last start. He really lit up the gun, and we didn't really see that this time around. But the problems are pretty clear. Hitters are batting .256 against him so far, which is the highest of his career. He's giving up quite a few homers. His home run to fly ball ratio is 20.7%. He's certainly walking too many hitters. He leads the NL Carter with 18 walks over his 22.2 innings pitched. He even walked 4 batters in his good start his last start before this past one. And it seems pretty clear what he has to do better, but it's just getting him to do it. So I guess one good sign from his last start is that he was able to settle in after that pretty rough first inning and was able to give the Cubs 5 innings. And it seemed like he could have even gone a little bit deeper again this time, since he had a very quick 5th inning. I think it was like 11 pitches or something. But Madden gave him the hook again in favor of perhaps trying to generate some offense. The Cubs had a rough time in that game against Greinke.
Mm-hmm.
But I think like in the future, I would like to see Madden just let him get through a 6th inning at some point when it seems favorable for him to do so. And the past 2 starts of Darvish's, it's looked like he could have done it. So next time, I want to see Madden leave him in and just let him, maybe pitch 105 pitches or something like that, as opposed to 88 or something.
Yeah, and I totally. I mean, you guys touched us in the last episode too about like I think that the white gloves approach is okay for a couple starts, but then at some point you're gonna have to let it ride.
Ooh, the white gloves approach.
Yeah, he's very precious. You don't want to get your fingerprints on him, and let him.
Like a Mr. Belvedere reference or something. Like,
isn't it a Stanley Cup reference? That's what I'm guessing.
It's an everything reference. It's a fine art reference as well for hoity-toity people like me.
You're dusting off the frame. You got to wear the white gloves. Like, okay, keep going.
No, I'm not. I'm just completely lost. I have no train of thought.
Well, I'll try to help you recover, Kurt. I think that I agree with you, Andy. It just feels like we've had 2 starts in a row where he could have been left in longer, and there may be reasons that we just don't know about that's not happening. But I mean, I think it's easy. Again, I kind of feel just like I said on our last episode. I think this was another start where you can take this start however you want. You can find the things you don't like about that start that, and if you want to be positive, you can find the things that you do like about it. And that's again, kind of what we have. And really, I mean, realistically, isn't it that way with pretty much every start that a starting pitcher makes? But, and I was impressed. I mean, I thought things were going to go downhill in a terrible way with the way that game started off. I mean, I thought that I can't remember exactly who. I remember the leadoff hitter kind of got like a cheap hit, and
and then he was thrown out. I think at trying to get to second.
Right.
So Darvish kind of got bailed out a little bit there by the defense, and then was it 2 straight home runs, back-to-back homers? I think after that. But anyway, he did surrender 2 home runs in that inning.
Right. And so like I looked at that like, oh boy, like this is where his confidence could be shaken. Maybe he's not quite as sharp tonight, and this is where it goes downhill. And I thought he recovered really well. And so, if you want to focus on those 2 home runs, just like the start before, 2 home runs. If you want to,
you can even argue. I mean, he got a lot stronger as that game went on. I mean, the 5th inning, like I said, was 10 or 11 pitches or something.
Right.
So I mean, at that point, he was in the high 80s for pitch count, but he seemed to find his way, which that's encouraging. Like, because I mean, we've seen starts of his where once things go wrong, it's all over, and it hasn't been like that this season.
Right. Yep. I totally agree, and that's where it's like, okay, if he starts cruising and building up momentum and getting stronger as the game goes on, I don't quite understand why Joe's inclination is then to go get him, or to not let him pitch into the 6th and go deeper into a game. I don't really understand it, but again, there may be things that with his recovery that we just don't know about, and maybe that's the approach they're choosing to take. And maybe in May, June, maybe that's where they kind of like open it up a little bit and let him go deeper. But yeah, like I said, like, I think if you want to be discouraged by the 2 home runs he gave up, I don't think that you're wrong in being discouraged by that. But I want to see Yu Darvish become the pitcher that the Cubs thought they were acquiring. And, I thought like it was a good sign to see him recover from a start that really started off horrendously and just could have gone downhill.
It could have ended up like 2.2 innings pitched.
Right. Yeah. Or it could have
5, which was big.
Yeah. Yeah. Or it could have been him barely not making it out of the first because he got flustered and lost control. And I just thought he recovered well. And, that's kind of what, we've seen him not recover, like you said, Andy. And so seeing him recover, I think that's a good sign. So,
yeah.
But boy, talk about a pitcher who did not need to recover from in the game, but recovering from a terrible spiral in his career. How about Tyler Chatwood?
Well, I guess he did recover from a very bad first at bat, by the opponent. He walked the first guy he faced on 4 straight.
Right. Well, yeah.
Horrific fastballs, and you're like, oh boy. I'm sure everybody watching had the same reaction of like, oh boy, here we go, 12 walks, 4 innings. But no, then after that, I mean, he just settled in completely and just was dominant. And after he walked that first guy, he got the ground ball double play, and then the ground out after that, got out of that inning. And at one point he retired 9 straight. And in the 5th, he had just allowed the 1 hit and only walked 1 other batter. So, I mean, this is the best we've seen out of Chatwood. This is what I think this is what they thought they would get occasionally. I mean, you can't expect this from him every start, but this is what they thought they would get with a guy
more often than not, even.
Yeah,
right?
Like, I mean, the sinker was just incredible in that game. I mean, that mixed with the 4-seamer, he was getting ground ball outs left and right. He got the 2 double plays. I mean, he just
there's
never.
There's so much swing and miss.
Danger. Yeah,
like swing and miss with this stuff, and then also just bad contact.
Yep. Yeah, a lot of like jamming guys inside.
Mm-hmm.
He was so efficient too, and through the 6 innings that he pitched, he only threw 71 pitches. So I imagine he wasn't completely stretched out to go further, but yeah, it just like it was impressive.
Well, if you would have in knowing that he wasn't stretched out, knowing that he probably was going to go 65, 75 pitches, like if you would have asked me before the game, okay, Chatwood goes 75 pitches, I'm like, well, maybe he gets into the 3rd. Like that just seems like that's what we've seen from Tyler Chatwood. And I thought one thing that was kind of neat too was, in hearing the beat reporters say how happy everyone in the Cubs clubhouse was for him and how much, he's really worked to try to repair what's gone wrong, and that this was like, I mean, he's got to be on top of the world right now, just like, okay, at least I know I have it in there, and now I need to figure out how to keep it.
Right. And he stepped up at a moment when they needed him. Like, he needed to fill in, and he stepped up to that spot. So he has to feel pretty good, and he should. I mean, nobody wants anybody to suffer when they sign a contract.
I go to my job every day thinking I have it in there. I just have to find it.
No, you're guaranteed money. You're just riding on that, mailing it in.
Yeah,
boy, I'm really terrible at this job, but at least I'm getting paid.
I have it in there.
And Andy's
I don't know if I'm
tenured.
gonna let it out. I mean, I totally could if I wanted.
Typical tenured teacher.
I just read out loud for hours on end.
They get the big contract, and then they just smooth sailing.
Yeah.
Whatever.
No, print out today's worksheets.
No, but it was it was unexpected, but it was a real, like, especially to see it in a game too where the Cubs needed that because they ended up walking it off in the 9th, but the Cubs offense didn't really produce a lot in that game, and so he definitely kept them in the game. And I mean, it was just probably the first like real positive Tyler Chatwood experience for Cubs fans. And
yeah, because I mean, anything less, they lose that game. Like
right.
It's been Chatty light, the whole time he's been with the Cubs, and this time it was Chatty heavy.
So I mean, but I'm all for him. We're not done with the Cubs needing to dip into the bullpen for starts, replacement starts. If somebody skips a start or somebody goes on the injured list or whatever. And so it's knowing that he's there, and who knows? I mean, I think it gives the Cubs a lot of options if they want to move to a 6-man rotation or something later in the season.
Or at least to know you've got a somewhat reliable long man if somebody else were to get knocked out early.
Mm-hmm.
If he stays out, he'd give you 4 innings in the middle of a game, so and not completely blow it. So yeah, these are good signs.
Yeah, for sure. So there we got some internet robot stuff going on, but I think everybody can understand what you're saying. So so we've covered the Darvish start, the Chatwood start, and how about, I guess we saved for the best for last, even. Well, I don't know. I don't know. I guess okay, I think maybe the Chatwood start is better just because it was so unexpected. But Kyle Hendricks, man, he that is the best Hendricks has looked this season, and probably the best he's looked in a long time. He went 7 shutout innings and gave up 3 hits and 2 walks, and he tied his career high with 11 strikeouts.
Really, if he does anything other than that in that game, the Cubs lose.
Well, yeah, and I mean, like it's just it was that was what we needed to see from Kyle Hendricks, and we knew it was there. And it was just like, we've talked about it. He needed to be able to get the calls that he needed. He needed his pitches. He needed to be able to locate in the bottom of the zone. And that's exactly what he did in the start. And all of his pitches were working. He looked really sharp. He used his sinker more than he had since that was the most he'd used it since the middle of last year. And he used it to locate when he was behind in the count. And then when he was ahead in the count, he just dropped his changeup in there. And on this episode, or on the last episode, I mentioned that his whiff rate was down and that players just weren't missing his pitches. And I think in his previous start, he had 4 swings and misses. And in this game, he had 10, and 8 of those came from his changeup. And so really just in general, I mean, that was the outing that we needed to see from Kyle. And I think it would be great to see him build on that. And I think Kyle is the type of pitcher that will build on that. It was like, okay, I was having trouble, working that bottom of the zone and locating. And we know that, like, when he's not getting those calls, it's tough for Kyle Hendricks because he's not going to blow anybody away. And when he's not getting swings and misses, it's going to be tough for him. And that was like just kind of settled back into the Kyle that we know. And so, it gives me a lot more confidence about his starts than I had probably going into that game, because I'm thinking like, oh man, if he can't find that for an extended period of time, it's going to get really ugly because, and I don't remember, I mean, granted we were working in small sample size territory, but I think before this game, wasn't his ERA, or his ERA at one point I think was at like 7 or something like that. It was pretty high, and now it's just over 3, I think. So
yeah, it's cool because we've seen him be off a little bit and then have one game where all of a sudden he finds his way and then goes on a run.
Right.
So there's no reason to think that he's not going to do that again.
Right.
Because he's done it historically.
Yeah. So pitching was, I don't know. I feel like that was the story of this Diamondback series was starting pitching. And, now that Lester is potentially coming back, I mean, you feel a lot better about pitching at towards the end of April than we did at the beginning or the first couple weeks of the season. So this is, at first we were like, man, Pacoda is a genius. And now we're like, Pacoda's crazy.
He's still 500.
That's true. But I mean, like, some of the pitching and defense stuff. But
I think the best part of this series is that when IVM recaps it, we go game 2, game 3, game 1. I think that's the best part of the series. We just ignore all conventional.
I'll be honest, I wouldn't even been able to tell you off the top of my head, which I can remember each game based on who was pitching, but I can't even remember.
Well, as you were talking, I'm like, wait a minute, Hendricks pitched the first game. Yeah. So yeah, it didn't occur to me either, but that's just how we roll.
Yep, that's right.
It's weird coming out of this series. I kind of feel bad about the offense because of the Greinke game, and then just kind of eking out a win. But they've scored a lot of runs, by and large this season. But I think we should bring him up. Of course, everybody's kind of talking about him. And
hold on, you kind of cut out. Can you say that again? I don't know who you're talking about.
I can't. I mean, the whole thing.
Well, you started talking about a specific player, and I don't know who you were talking about.
Oh yeah, and so I wanted to kind of focus in on Bryant because everybody's wringing their hands over him, and Jordan Bastian put out one of those mailbox articles that we know and love so well from the Muscat days that kind of delves into Bryant's start. I wanted to bring up a couple of the high points from that. Of course, there's the whole idea that it's early in the season, and we can continue to say that he's going to find his way, but there's going to be a point where it's no longer early, and so what then? But I think one takeaway from Bastian's response to this mailbox question was that he references Rizzo's start last season that was very cold, both temperature wise and then also his hitting.
Rizzo was also dealing with injury.
Yeah. I think his back was kind of giving him trouble early last season.
Wasn't that from the sleeping in Cincinnati or something? Was that injury?
It was a Cincinnati hotel bed, wasn't it?
Yeah. I don't remember I think it was that. I think that's what it was, but
they gave him a roll away or something. But yeah, I mean, of course, Rizzo went on to have a pretty strong season, so you can kind of take some comfort in that maybe that will happen for Bryant. But a couple other notes: his hard hit percentage is down, and he's not doing much with fastballs. But the thing that the aspect of Bryant's game that Bastian mentioned that I thought was the most interesting is that he has 69.9% contact rate on pitches in the zone, which is down from 80.3% in 2018. And so, I mean, just the eye test so far has, seemed to confirm that. It just seems like he's missing on a lot of swings on pitches that are in the zone that he should at least be able to make contact with.
Right. He wasn't beat by those pitches in the past.
Mm-hmm. Or at least he was able to waste them,
Right.
And be able to foul those things off. But, I mean, he's just missing them. Mm-hmm. It seems like more than we've ever seen before, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I suppose I think there's a lot of things at play too, and that when you start game one with a home run and 3 RBI, everybody's like, "Yes, he's back. The slump's over."
Well, and I think him kind of setting the tone in spring training, like his revenge tour type. He was so angry. Of course, he had a smile on his face and his eyes were still sparkling. But I think he kind of set that tone for he was going to come out. He was on a mission, and so I think we kind of had those expectations too.
Yeah, and I think when you see Bellinger and Yelich off to crazy hot starts, and he's of course going to be compared to guys like that you expect him to kind of do that, but I mean he's basically playing league average baseball. I mean offensively right now, and so if a slumping Chris Bryant is league average over 20 games, I think for now I'm not freaking out yet. I'm not losing any sleep over it. I think he'll come around, and I'd rather see that late summer and in the fall when he's turning around and hot. And maybe and the other thing is that how great is it that Javy and Wilson are super hot right now, and they can kind of cover up his struggles and carry him through it. And I think that's what you want to see, so that maybe when those guys are struggling a bit, Bryant will be hot again. So basically I'm not too worried about him.
Right. Yeah, I'm with you.
Yet.
Right. I think it's worth watching because it's peculiar, I guess,
Yep.
So.
Well, it still doesn't he's been the same, since since some of the things that happened, like the hit by pitch in the head. I mean, he's had some pretty torrid streaks since then, but not with the consistency that he had, say, in 2016.
Right. Yeah, that's true. Well, Kurt, since you mentioned him, I know I probably used up my Javy allowance on the last episode, but everyone can credit David Bodie all they want for the walk-off on Sunday. But in my eyes, that was all Javy. And I'm not taking away from David Bodie because he had a pretty incredible day when the birth of a child and all of that. But but I would rather talk about Javy because that's what I do. So Javy had gone.
You just like sound effects.
Javy had gone 0 for 9 in the first 2 games of the series, and I was thinking about like in years past, that is where after going 0-9 in 2 games, like that's in one of the games I think he struck out 3 times. That's where you would start to worry about Javy's approach, or worry that his swing is off and everything. But nowadays he just recovers so quickly, and it feels like he can go 0 for 9 and then he's just going to have like an incredible game, and that's just what he does. And he hit a ball that almost went out. He ended up on third base. It drove a run in. And then in the bottom of the 9th, he just hits this little squibber that made it past first. I think most players, if that's Anthony Rizzo, I don't think he makes it to second. I think he plays it safe and stays at first base. But Javy takes off to second, and then he ends up on third base, and they assign, 2 errors to Adam Jones. And fine, do that if you want. But I think it was pretty evident that Javy was in Adam Jones' head, and that is what made him bobble the ball. And that is an El Mago influenced error. And that's like, that is what we have talked about, that like Javy brings this element to the game where he has incredible instincts and he can make things happen, but he also just plants this seed of doubt in opponents' heads that they just don't exactly know what he's going to do. And I think that little bobble right there was just Adam Jones, not, I don't know what he was doing, and maybe it wasn't Javy, but I think it was Javy. And I think that we've seen fielders make those types of mistakes, and I just think like that, and you can't quantify that. There's like, we talked about it last year, like they're just going to have to invent this advanced stat for the things that Javy does, and just factor in, the swim slides and the tags and the forcing mistakes, and there's just so much. And as soon as like Javy hit that, and man, I can't remember. Okay, did he? I don't remember the count. Was it 0-2? I don't think it was. I wish it was, but I don't think it was. That would make the narrative even better. But I mean, he really, that little squibber that he hit, he was just kind of fighting it off. I mean, I don't think he even realized that it was going to be a fair ball. I think he was just like kind of got fooled on one.
I don't care for the word squibber. So do I have a Javy allowance that I can spend somewhere? Like, is there a store?
Oh, on this podcast, Andy, you have unlimited Javy allowance.
Okay. I mean, you're supposed to, I guess I get it every week from watching, don't I?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
no, I'm with you on him. Just it's that the unknown of him. Just like you said, it's totally unmeasurable, but you can just see it. Like it's anxiety. It's like he plants anxiety. Like what is he doing? Like and then the defense just doesn't know how to react to that in Javy time. It's just all happening too fast.
His magic just starts already when he's at the plate with like trying to check his own swings with
right.
But what's so amazing is like the defense looks uncomfortable, and he looks so comfortable in the most uncomfortable moments.
Right.
And that is just unbelievable. And did you guys see Bodie attempt a swim slide? And it looked like he was doing a push-up while sliding into second. And it was like, oh yeah, now that makes it even more evident how difficult that is. He tried it. Good job, David, but not even close. And yeah, he is just incredible.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, it just, as soon as he hit that and I saw that it was fair, I mean, no joke. I was like, yep, this game's over. It doesn't, Javy's on base. It's over. And I think, was he the first batter in the inning? I think he was. It's all kind of a blur. But I knew that game was done as soon as he got on base, and I assumed he would end up on third and then score on like a wild pitch or something. Like that's just what he does. But
it could be the title of my autobiography. It's all kind of a blur.
But yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I said this on the last episode when I was fawning over Javy, but I think I'm coaching softball again this year, and I'm coaching. We moved up a league, and I've been talking with the girls about like just force the other team to make mistakes. We're going to put pressure. We're the youngest team now. We weren't that good when we were the oldest team. And so now we're the youngest team in the league, and we're just going to force the other team to make mistakes. And so I'm going to show them Javy videos and basically, and I'm giving them free reign. Like I will not get mad at you for being aggressive. You be as aggressive as you want. And I just think like, it's going to be interesting to see like a lot of, we weren't really taught that growing up and playing baseball. We weren't really taught to be that aggressive and play that free spirited. And so,
in fact, I feel like we had a lot of coaches who got mad,
right.
if we were thrown out being aggressive.
Right. Yeah. And so that's where it's like, you know what? I feel like we have this like new, with all of the young, energetic and fun players in Major League Baseball right now. I think the kids that are watching, if they can figure out how to watch, because they can't watch it on their phones, then they can, I feel like these players like Javy are influencing the sport in a great way that I think, and I think it should be encouraged. It's easy for me to encourage it because our team sucks, but I'm going to encourage
running, keep running.
Yeah, just do what you do, and I won't get upset with you until it doesn't work.
Isn't that all?
and then I'll be like, why'd you do that?
I mean,
right?
Shouldn't kids have fun playing?
Yeah, we should just live our lives like Javy plays baseball.
There you go.
No, winning is everything. This is a garbage attitude.
But if you can do both,
I'm trying to manufacture wins, Andy. That's what I'm doing. If we play it safe, we're never gonna win.
Oh man.
Okay. Javy segment done. So we've mentioned Lester several times, and looks like he's coming back and soon, and some other players are starting to work their way back too.
Yeah, Lester should be back soon, possibly even for when his spot comes up this week, which I believe is Thursday. Is that right?
Yeah, I think so. It's a TBD.
So he threw a simulated game this past week. I think he threw just under 50 pitches, and he's coming back from left hamstring discomfort experienced after running the bases aggressively in his last outing, oddly enough. I don't see any reason why he wouldn't be back soon. It wasn't a big injury, just kind of a tweak of the muscle. But the major news in injury in injury land in Injuryville is that Brandon Morrow was shut down after his last bullpen session, as he did not did not recover well, unquote, after it. So he's trying to come back from elbow surgery, and that's pretty bad news as we were looking for bullpen help, especially earlier in the season when the bullpen was really struggling. But it sounds like the Cubs are just taking a cautious approach with him and not really seeing much of a reason to rush it if he's not recovering well after throwing. They want to make sure that they just take their time and don't do any damage by rushing him back. So that seems pretty prudent to me, but it's just bad news. I was really looking forward to him being back and helping out this bullpen, which I think still can use a little Morrow in it. I wanted to bring out Mike Montgomery, who, along with Bodie, just had a baby. They didn't have a baby together, but
so there's two babies.
There's two babies that exist among. There's okay. Anyway, so he started a game for the Smokies tonight, actually, and he went 4 innings in that game. Oddly enough, I tuned into Smokies game day earlier just in time to see that Nico Horner hit an inside the park homer. So I don't know how it happened because I was watching on game day, but he's doing his thing down there and being aggressive apparently. But Montgomery did give up a 3-run homer in an otherwise good outing, and he's coming back from a left lat strain. So that's the Montgomery news. Just a couple other just bullet points. Xavier Cedeno had a rehab appearance for the Smokies that didn't go very well, but it still sounds like he could possibly be available by the end of the month. So there is some potential bullpen help, but it's not the help that we were hoping for. Tony Barnett also appeared in a game in Iowa recently, and that outing I don't think went very well for him either. But I think his contract is structured in a way that he can be in Iowa until the Cubs see fit to give him a look in the majors. I'm not positive about that, but I think that's the case. And then finally, Victor Caratini will not be available most likely until late May. So there's the injury report.
Yeah. Okay, so let's look at this Dodgers series. The Dodgers are coming in for a series that starts Tuesday.
Yeah, so that's me again. Tuesday's game features righty Kenta Maeda versus Jose Quintana, and that's a 7:05 start on NBC Sports Chicago. So man, Quintana's been great. He's had 2 starts in a row where he has been dominant, and I will be over the moon if he could put 3 starts like that in a row together.
Mm-hmm.
Man, that's gonna be awesome. And based on what we've seen, I don't see why he couldn't do that. I mean, we talked about it on the past 2 episodes, how he has a great 3-pitch mix working now, with greater use of the changeup. And I think even no matter if the team that they're facing comes into a Quintana start with a good game plan, no matter how well they plan for it, it's hard to execute against a pitcher like Q when he has good command of those, his 3 pitches. And none of the Dodgers have much of a sample size against him. So, man, what a tone setter for him to come out and just sort of repeat, his past couple of performances against the Dodgers. I mean, that would be huge,
yeah.
I think, for this series. So, going back to Maeda, out of his 4 starts this season, he's only really had 1 bad one, and that was 2 starts ago against the Cardinals. He gave up 5 earned runs against them, but he did get back on track last time out against the Reds. And none of the Cubs have too much of a sample against him either. So I'm looking for some of these kind of dormant lefty bats to show some life against Maeda, So we get that good Q start. We get, maybe a big Rizzo hit. I think that could do a lot for this series.
Yeah. And then Wednesday.
Yeah, game 2 will be Cole Hamels versus Walker Buehler, and that'll be a 7:05 start on WGN.
We were in the chat. The best NASCAR names in baseball came up, and I think you just said another
Walker Buehler. Got to be number 1.
And driving the Chex Mix car is Walker Buehler.
Cheerios. I'll get me a Cheerios jacket. But yeah, similarly, there are not a lot of at bats against Buehler in this lineup, but he's only 24 in his 3rd season with the Dodgers, and this is only his 2nd season as a starter, and it'll be his first start at Wrigley. So, not a ton of sample to look at there.
That has to be one of the worst pitcher names, along with Homer Bailey, Walker Buehler. I'm sorry, yes. I can't get over this name. I'm just gonna keep going on and on about it.
I don't know.
I think
cool.
Keep coming up with more NASCAR sponsors.
Grant Balfour was the worst.
Yeah. But they did face him one time last year, and they knocked him out in the first inning. They scored 5 runs in the first inning. Javy was 3 for 5 in that game. Rizzo 4 for 5. Not all of those bats came against him, obviously, because he was out in the first. But and he had a pretty good year last year overall. But in 4 starts this year, he's been a little inconsistent, and he's been knocked out of the game kind of early twice in the 3rd and 4th innings, and gave up 5 runs in those 2 starts. So again, he's been a little inconsistent. He was pretty dominant in his last start. He went 6 1/3 and allowed just 3 hits and no runs. So, and struck out 8. That was versus the Reds. So I don't know how much stock we want to put into that. But I think this is one of those games where the Cubs could get to him early, run up his pitch count, and really work them over, get them out early. So on the other side, again, there's not a ton of at bats for this lineup against Hamels. But I think I kind of dug in a little bit, and I think the stars are kind of aligning a little bit for the Cubs. If they could throw out 3 lefties in all the games, that'll really work in their favor, because you would think this lineup with all the right-handed power would do okay against the lefty lineup, but that's really not the case. And that Bellinger is super hot right now, but his slash line against lefties is 280, 333, 640. That's not so bad, but his slash line against righties is 483, 562, and 983. So you'll take him against lefties when that's the split. And then you look down the lineup, Turner's hitting 167 against lefties. And then, of course, their lefties are also horrible against lefties. Peterson's only hitting 100, Seager 167. The only exception in this lineup is Hernandez, who's hitting 500 against lefties, and that's just with 16 at bats. So in looking down this lineup and the matchups, I really like if Lester pitches Thursday and they can do 3 lefties in a row against this lineup, I think that really works in their favor.
I mean, shoot, they're going to sweep the series. Yeah,
I think so. I mean, their splits are ridiculous with these hitters, and it's not a lineup that you can, take for you. It's a good lineup. Let's be honest, but and they can do some damage pretty quickly. But yeah, the splits are so lopsided this early that it kind of looks good. Hopefully, this isn't the series where they turn that around, but yeah, I think it looks pretty good for him, and and Hamels been pretty consistently dominant, so let's hope he keeps that up.
Yeah. So we could see Jon Lester return to the rotation on Thursday's game. Right now, the Cubs starter is TBD, but the game is a 1:20 start on NBC Sports Chicago. The Dodgers will send Ross Stripling to the mound, and he will.
That's the guy with the old school windup, I believe. Like they're totally like over the head, step back type windup.
Oh, really? I don't remember.
Just as a side note, but.
Well, he's likely going to be pushed out of the rotation when Rich Hill returns.
Ross, no.
I know, but it's for Rich Hill, so okay. I'm all for it. And that should be soon. But Stripling is pitching well this year. He has an ERA of 3.07. He struck out 26 while walking 9. And the Cubs do have some at bats against Stripling. So check us out. Javy is 5 for 5 with 3 doubles and a home run against Stripling. Then on the other side of things, Contreras is 0 for 6 with 4 strikeouts. So those are the extremes. As a team, they are slashing 267, 267, 450. So
gotta love that on base percentage, man.
Yeah, right. So just overall, I think if the Cubs can do well in this series, it's going to really help my confidence in this 2019 team a lot. I feel like we just haven't really been able to get a good grasp of what this team is. And we know the Dodgers are a good team. They're the type of team that the Cubs would need to be in the playoffs. And I just feel like here we are, 3 weeks into the season, and Cubs are at 500, and we just don't really know. Like, the pitching has looked really bad and really good. The bullpen has looked really bad and okay, decent. The offense has looked really good and then kind of okay. And so we just don't know what we have. And I feel like this Dodgers, this is a good spot for like a measuring stick type series of like, okay, now let's see. Now they've played some of these, other teams that, the Braves aren't bad. They haven't played like terrible teams. They've played the Brewers, but like now we get to see them play the Dodgers, who it feels like it's been the Dodgers and the Cubs since 2015, basically, or 2016, And so I'm really looking forward to this series. And I think we're going to learn a lot more about this team in the series. So.
Yeah, and the Dodgers just took 3 out of 4 against the Brewers. So, it means nothing, but in the context of the story, it kind of would be huge for the Cubs to then go in and win a series or sweep a series against the Dodgers. So,
yeah.
But yeah, I really like the pitching matchups, and Yeah, I think that you can work your way around. I mean, Bellinger is insane right now. So yeah, he'll make his presence known no matter what they try to do with him. But yeah, that'll be an interesting thing because he really had a good series against the Brewers. So
yep, should be fun. I'm looking forward to it. Ivy Miscellany. What else are you guys into, Kurt?
So yeah, mine is kind of lame, but as we come into some warmer weather, the highlight of my week and weeks past has been planning summer vacation and just trying to figure out what we're doing. We know that we're going to the Black Hills and to the Badlands, and
that sounds fun.
I'm just sort of like that. I love just sort of planning out the agenda and what we're going to do. It makes you sort of get a taste of that summer vacation before you even get to go. So that's what I'm into right now, just trying to sort it all out because I'm super excited about it.
We just started planning ours yesterday.
So. Yeah. It's sometimes the anticipation of it is not as good, but it's close.
We're going a little bit low key this year. Low key compared to maybe, usually we go all the way to California, so we're not doing that.
Yeah.
So, but we're working the Cubs, an away Cubs game into the trip.
Nice.
So, yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and this is our big travel year where we're actually taking a big driving trip out there. So yeah, we're excited about it.
Cool. Andy, what are you into?
I'm into this Twitter account that is called Endless Jeopardy. It's the handle is @Endless Jeopardy. And so what they do is I guess it's computer generated clues. So it's like kind of nonsense Jeopardy clues. For example, here's a recent one. The clue is the electric paramedics play this genre of music. So then you're supposed to respond with something clever, there's no right answers. And then it actually awards points and keeps like a running point total to the responses with the most likes, I think is how it works. So for the electric paramedics play this genre of music, the top response was, what is EDMT? So it's all like joke responses like that. So, one of my friends at work and I have just been constantly trying to answer these endless Jeopardy tweets and get points. So it's actually a pretty fun Twitter follow.
Oh, that sounds
it's like crowdsourcing dad jokes.
Right.
It really is, yeah. So of course I love it. So yeah, add into Endless Jeopardy. It's a pretty fun Twitter follow.
Wow. So my Ivy Miscellany is, since it's Earth Day, I would encourage you to go for a walk and clean up your neighborhood, clean up your community. We try to do that every Earth Day. We live out in the country, and it is just astonishing how much litter there is in the ditches in the country. And so I had softball practice with our oldest tonight, so I wasn't able to do it, but Tawny and our youngest did it. And so you guys have been to our house, like down to the dirt road. I don't know, it's maybe a quarter of a mile. I don't know. And they filled up an entire garbage bag full on one side of the road. So basically just our ditch. And Tawny was like, I didn't know people drank so many big gulps. Like she said, it was just like big gulps and beer cans.
People still draining the big gulps. It's just in.
So, but I mean, it's just, and it's something too that if you live in town and you think, oh, well, our neighborhood is pretty clean, just go out to the country, go out to a country road and just pick up garbage, because it's just amazing how much garbage. I don't understand how.
It's just as bad. I can't
Yeah, I just don't understand, and especially after winter. Yeah. It's like after the snow melts. It's just and really, some of it comes from our garbage cans getting blown over, and we pick everything up, but I mean, stuff does kind of get blown around. But I'll say in this garbage bag, it wasn't any of our stuff. But so I don't know. That's my Earth Day.
Yeah.
Just clean up and don't litter. Come on.
Or push for less single-use items. That would be another thing to add there.
Yeah. When you're done with the beer can, you get it out of the ditch, you fill it up with water, and Reuse it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I meant.
All right, so that will do it for this episode, and it was brought to you by all of the listeners who support us on Patreon. We have 2 new supporters to thank this week. First, Matthew from Manchester, New Hampshire, or maybe Manchester, New Hampshire, I'm not sure. Manchester is also called the Queen City, which I thought Cincinnati had the title of the Queen City, but I guess there's 2 of them. And then also this one, I don't quite understand this nickname it has, but it's also called Manch Vegas. So I don't know, like if there's, I couldn't really find anything about there being like casinos or anything there. But my fun fact, it is the home of Segway Incorporated, who make Segways. So yeah. And then as we were getting ready to go, I saw that Bernie Sanders was doing a town hall tonight, and I flipped it on, and they were in Manchester, New Hampshire. So Bader Meinhof effect there. And then Patrick from Kalamazoo, Michigan, also jumped on the Patreon campaign. I once stopped in a Kalamazoo to use a Kinko's. That's my fun fact.
Cool story, bro.
No, but yeah, Kinko's is cool. Kalamazoo.
It's a tongue twister there.
I know.
Kinko's Kalamazoo.
Kinko's, Michigan.
No, Kalamazoo. Have you guys been to Kalamazoo? I think it's a cool town.
Nope.
No?
I haven't.
So it's
actually been to Kalamazoo proper.
Huh. So that's where Bell's Brewery is. And
hey, new sponsor on the score.
Yeah, they're on the score.
Yeah, Pat. Have you not heard Pat Hughes do a Bell's Brewery?
No, I haven't.
Oh boy, it's hilarious to hear Coom and Pat try to talk about craft beer because they've never had it.
They're a presence in the ballpark now, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
should be able to get some.
But
Bells stuff.
they're.
Oh yeah, I did see they had Two Hearted.
Man, I gotta say, I had a Two Hearted recently for the first time in a while the other day, and it was tasty.
Yeah, yeah. It's good. Oh, so here's another one, Andy. I mean, being a guitar person, that is also where Gibson Guitar Corporation was founded. So there's that.
Yeah,
too.
well,
all the good stuff.
I like Fender, so
and it is the hometown of Derek Jeter. I didn't even realize that. I didn't know that. I didn't know he's from Michigan. I mean, everybody else probably knew that, but I don't care about Derek Jeter, so whatever. So there you go. That's how I endorse your town. Oh, this like one of the most famous baseball players is from there, but I don't care about
a famous person from there. I don't give a rip.
So thank you to Matthew and Patrick and the rest of you who support us on Patreon. If you like the podcast and you'd like to become part of the IVMV team, go to patreon.com/IVMV. That's patreon.com/IVMV. Thank you for downloading and listening. And until next time, go Cubs.
We did it.
Yeah, I don't think we had any edits.
I think there was an edit, wasn't there?
Well, you know what? I did mark one, but we
no,
kind
you
of
made
like
Andy start over at
yeah,
one point.
Yeah,
so
that's
you
right. Yeah, but we kind of talked our way through it, so I may just leave it in.
Did you know that Kalamazoo has a higher crime rate than the national average?
I did see that, but I wasn't going to bring it up.
I just love that. That's a section in the Wikipedia page. Crime in Kalamazoo.
This transitions into like we insult your town, like if you support us.
Oh man!
Bring up the unflattering stuff.
Fun. All right, well, I'm gonna get this thing edited and posted. So thanks for watching live, everyone. And Andy, I guess we'll shoot for Thursday night.
Yeah.
Thursday night. It's going to be tough for me. But
during the broadcast, probably. During the game, I mean.
It's going to be tough for me. Tawny's out of town, and I have softball practice. So I will be coming home, getting the kids all squared away for, school the next day and everything. So I don't really know exactly when I'll be able to do it.
Okay.
But, I mean, I would think it'd be like 8:30. Well, on Thursday they play an afternoon game.
Oh yeah, okay. So Okay, that's fine. Whatever. I can make it work. Whatever.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Let's shoot for 8:30, and then we'll see where
things
I'm at.
change or whatever. Okay.
All right. Cool.
Sounds good.
All right. Have a good night, guys. Thanks for watching, everybody.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody.